Hey, seniors, let's take a look at how you will complete the character analysis slides for the Canterbury Tale. So first off, you will select a character. So we'll give you that list of characters to pick from. So you and your partner will start by naming the character right here on this line, and then you'll put your two names. Now, it's important to note which is number one and which is number two, because that will determine which slides you accomplish as you go through here and which grade that you get. So please make sure you're very aware of this. So once you get that, slide number two gives you just the directions and the points of how this will be evaluated. So let's go here. First off, group member number one, so person number one is going to describe physically the character that you have selected. So inside of the general prologue, Chaucer spends a lot of time describing, naming and describing each of the characters. He describes a lot of the physical look, what they're wearing, how they're acting, what they're doing. He does give a little bit of non-physical description, such as what they do for a job and what some people think of them and how they do their job. But there's a lot of physical description, okay? What they look like, what their physical makeup is, and then what they're wearing. The idea is that those physical descriptions then translate into commentary about that person or that profession. So member number one will describe the character physically, okay? Now this will come basically straight from the text. That doesn't mean you copy chunks and you put it in here. Yes, you do need to have some examples, but you'll need to explain what that means. For instance, if it says that he was riding a gelding, okay? What is a gelding, or why is that important, right? And then on the next slide, then member number two will then analyze those characteristics. So if it says he is riding a gelding, what does that suggest about him? Why is that a point? Why is that a notable piece of information that Chaucer gives us? So this will be much more analytical. Now, again, you can use the same examples from the previous slide in your analysis, but this isn't just what that means. So if it said he was wearing really rich, expensive looking clothing, you wouldn't come over here and say his clothes look like he had a lot of money. So what about that does it say about him, right? So we want to go beyond the obvious. This slide number two, or the first main slide, or slide number three, this is the obvious. Number four, this is the part where you have to really do the analysis, okay? Slide number five, then, group number one explains what the profession is. What do they do? What do we know about how they do it? For instance, are they honest about it, or are they crooked about it, or do they trick people, or what it is? If you just say he is a priest, for instance, you haven't done enough, right? You have to be able to explain what they do, how they do it, and why is that significant. Slide number six, then, the personality. So person number two then will explain their personality. What kind of person are they? If you met them on the street, what would they be like? And then what do people think of them? Some of this will be directly stated from the text. The text will say, hey, so-and-so everybody loves, or people hate them, or they avoid them, or whatever, right? Some of that will be that, but some of it will be just kind of coded or phrased where you're going to infer what they have to say. Again, if you say he is friendly, you haven't done enough. Slide number seven, so group number two, person number two, you're going to find two images of this character. Now, one from then and what they would be like today. Now, the thing about this is you have to think about what that would mean. For instance, let's take the knight. So if you picked the knight, we don't have knights today. There won't be anybody, on a horse with a sword fighting people or something like that. You're not going to get that kind of picture. So you have to think, what would that character be today? So we don't have a knight, but we do have policemen, soldiers, something like that, right? So how would you translate them into something else, right? Now, some of them are obvious, like, the cooks and the cooks and the priests and the nun or something like that. We have those, but you have to think of what they would look like. For instance, if a character was really, a really honest, awesome, upstanding kind of guy, how would you see that today, right? If they were a crook or a cheat or whatever, what would that look like today? And so you really need to think about how you would put them or modernize them in today's society. Slide number 9, group number 1, person number 1 is going to retell the tale. So, for instance, we had the Knight's Tale, right? The Knight's Tale was a story about chivalry. These two knights, they were fighting over the love of one beautiful princess that they saw from afar, and then describe, that story. What was the meaning? What was the big takeaway? What was the big thing that story was about? This is going to be a paragraph long. If you say this is a story about chivalry, you obviously have not done enough. You may look this up. You may be able to get this online. The thing I do not want to see is you just go to Spark Notes and copy 4 paragraphs and paste it on here. You're going to have to read through it. You're going to have to kind of weed out that summary. What are the parts that you would need to tell so that somebody else would understand that? Now, slide number 9. This is the only one that's different. And slide number 9 is the satire of the story. And this will be for both members. So the two of you will have to kind of collaborate on this. So we talked about satire is commentary, right? Like pointing out the hypocrisy, pointing out the the wrongness of a situation, making that social commentary on, hey, here's something that's not okay. We're not going to identify it directly. We're not going to point it out, but we're going to talk about this. And when we talk about this, we're really showing about this this perceived wrong, right? And this tale is full of satire. There is no character that you will look at and say, nah, there's nothing, there's no commentary, there's no satire. There's plenty of it, right? There is a lot of all of it. Now, some of them are going to be a lot more obvious than others, so you do need to think it through. When you get to this point, you will have to identify the satire. So in this part, when they talked about this is what they were really talking about. This is what they were trying to point out. This is what Chaucer wanted us to see. Make sure that you're pulling examples from the text. And because this is analysis, because you're going to have to explain yourself, then you're going to start to see several sentences, okay? I am looking for, on all of these, specific examples from the text, not just a reference to, right? Oh, this text talked about blank. No, show me that, right? So make sure that you have very specific pieces of examples. The last slide then is where you would put the links to any sources that you used, okay? So if you looked up Spark Notes to get part of the summary, you would put that link on here. This just helps us see where you got your information from and to make sure that you really were, that you understood the information that you got. In all of this, what we're really looking at here is that you show us what you really know, that you prove to us that you've thought this through, not just repeated and regurgitated from some source. We want to see that you have taken this, that you understand character analysis, that you understand theme, that you understand satire. If we can't see that in the information that you've written, you haven't done enough on that slide. Also remember that these slides are designated one person versus the other, except for the satire, which is both. Okay, so remember that if you are going to, pick your partner wisely, obviously, right? You pick your partner wisely. You do not have to take somebody just because they come to you and say, can I be your partner? But it is specified as to who gets what. If you're going to do stuff that is outside of your bounds for your partner, that's fine. But remember that, that doesn't help you any. That only helps them. So make sure that you are responsible for your work and you're doing the right thing. If you have any questions at all as you're going through this, make sure you're reaching out to McGuire. Good luck, everybody.